I'll try to succinctly explain my vision for the Regents Physics Questions project. Basically, the idea is that there are lots of physics teachers out there who make questions, they may use Regents questions, but these questions aren't available in a form that's easy to use, or if they are, you've got to pay for it. For example, with the Wizard program or some other program online, maybe we have Blackboard or some other learning management system you've got to pay for. Moodle is free. Regents Physics questions, which are obviously great for college prep physics, and there's especially some of the older ones, some questions that are good for honors classes, is a really valuable resource. They've been making Regents Physics exams since at least 1934. Of those, I've managed to locate 50 of them on the web, and I've put them here, numbered them. Let me show you what the first one looks like in 1968. At least the first one that I have. They changed the syllabus in 1967. Before that, it was English units, so I didn't bother going back that far. And as you can see, the questions are in a PDF that's really just a picture of it. And that's kind of nice, maybe nostalgic to look back at them, but it's not very practical. It's not very easy to use. My vision is that we get these into a database that anybody can use. To do that, we're going to use a program called Examview. The reason I think we should use Examview is that this program comes standard with a lot of new textbook these days with questions from the publisher. Now, I'm not advocating that we share those questions because those are proprietary, but I certainly have no problem sharing Regents questions, which are free. They're posted on the internet. Anybody can use them. In fact, most of the questions I've seen from Wizard and some other companies use just those questions and charge an arm and a leg. For example, Wizard charges $40 per person per year per bank to use their questions. And granted, the service is convenient. That's just an awful lot of money, and I think we can do it ourselves. To do that, however, it requires some cooperation. So what I've done is I've set up this website here at physicsteachers.9hub.com. You can self-register there, and you can enroll yourself in the Regents Physics Questions project. The workflow would go something like this. I have that list of 50 PDF files. All the ones before about 1999 are strictly image-type PDF files, so there's no copying of text that you can do there. And you have to manually enter them. The first 30 or so are 120 questions long. The most recent ones are about 50 multiple choice questions plus some other questions. For now, we're just focused on the multiple choice. And you have to manually enter those. And I recognize the hurdle that represents for people. But I think, especially people that are physics-minded, have for a long time been collaborating and joining resources together. Hold on, let me... Sorry about that. But physics people in particular have been good at collaborating over the years, and I think with physics teachers that should be no different, that we can share the workload. I've tried to streamline the process as much as I can using Examview 6.2. If you don't have that, talk to me about what program you do have, and we'll see what options we have available. In other videos I go through how to enter the questions here, but you basically manually type it in, and it's really nice because you can easily copy and paste pictures in. Really handles it nicely. So step number one, and this probably takes 1 to 3 hours. It took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to enter one exam, but I do type fairly fast. I think when we do this, though, the importance is going to be stressed with quality. I think it's important that we really have some control over the quality of the questions, both that the answers match correctly and there's no typos, images are the right size, things like that. So the idea would be that over time, exams will be coming in as people submit them to this database. There's a discussion that's going to go on simultaneously about how these questions should be categorized. What topics, and when I say category, I do mean broad categories like energy and momentum and things like that, but also very specific categories that once we get this into Moodle, which I have the technology to do, we just don't have the question banks, will be very specific, like a V equals IR algebra problem, or FNet equals MA solve for M problem, or however specific we want to get. Those are things we need to talk about. We also want to talk about difficulty levels. We can categorize these things in Examview and then use those categories to put them into groups or question banks on Moodle. Once that's done and it's on the site, we should have this available to share with everybody. Now, as the sharing goes, I do have some questions about, the work, because it does take time to type these things in. I would love to type all 50 questions, all 50 exams in. I'm not going to, which begs the question, if you have a bunch of people typing these in, 1 or 2 per person, it's really not that big a deal, and you have this wealth of information, 5,000 questions worth of information. But what tends to happen is 1 or 2 people tend to do a lot of the work, and then most people, they're busy, I understand that, tend to just download it and be done with it. So my plan at this point, unless people convince me otherwise, is that once we get a certain number of question banks, a certain critical mass, if you will, I'll probably close off those Examview banks and put them in a private section that only people who are contributing can access that. Now, I have lots of instructions for exactly how to do this using Examview 6.2, details about the workflow, how I'd like people to do that, things to consider quality-wise as you do it, a place to discuss. I've made YouTube videos and put them here for various aspects of entering the questions into Moodle, how to deal with equations, images, narratives, you name it. So that's my vision for the project. I hope that you consider joining. If you want to see what it looks like once imported into Moodle, I've done it for the 1980 exam. Ideally, this will be by topic as you go later on. This is what it looks like. And unlike some of you, there have been a couple hundred people who've downloaded my Regents physics questions that are just the images for the modern exams, meaning since 2002. But this would actually be as text, editable, sortable, searchable, but it also has the images, it has proper scientific notation, units. It's really a much nicer way to have these questions. And as a side benefit, because these are in Examview already, you can then use this much like the Wizard program or some other programs and generate tests, paper-based tests with answer keys. Examview will let you make multiple versions. It'll print out an answer key. It'll do lots of nice things. If you want to see what these look like, I've actually posted as an example here. Here's what it looks like as a single column. Here's what it looks like as a double column exam. Probably should have thought this through and done it earlier. So here's what it looks like as a PDF file. Similar to the way it would look in Wizard, similar in form to the Regents exam. It actually looks nice because the Regents questions are written this way originally. These images are okay. That's how they come from the PDF. If you had really dedicated souls, they could recreate these images if they really wanted. But I think this is a nice resource for people that if we all just take, a couple hours out of our lives, you could make this wonderful resource that would be available to everybody. So I hope that you consider joining this project and making a contribution, whether that be through entering questions or discussing topics or proofreading databases. There's a lot of work to be done here, but in the end, I think it'll be worth it, and I hope that you consider joining.